Over the last 100 or so years since film came around, there have been countless stories created. Sci-fi, horror, comedy, musicals, all stories made to take people away from the real world. These stories are all usually fiction, stories made up for the audience's benefit of entertainment. But there's one thing a film can include that can cause more of an interest to the audience. I'm sure throughout your lifetime, you've seen a film that started with this. This phrase is powerful, especially in film. It creates a sense of authenticity and prepares the audience to see a narrative as something closer to reality than other films out there. When that phrase pops up on the screen, we're not just watching a film that someone has invented in their head, we're watching a life that someone in the past or present has already lived. As Mark Twain once said, truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities, truth isn't. This quote directly translates to the issue of films based on true stories. The truth can be bent in many different ways, sometimes unintentionally. When you tell someone of an experience you've had, you may get details wrong, but whether right or wrong, the person you're telling would just accept it as the truth, even if it does sound too good or strange to be true. If they weren't there, then they'll take your retelling of the story as the truth. So when it comes to films based on true stories, the audience takes what they see on screen at face value, and believe it because they were told to believe it in that way. A good example of this comes from The Wolf of Wall Street, which tells the life of Jordan Belfort, a fraudulent stockbroker notorious for his scams and money laundering throughout the 1990s. During the scene in which his yacht sinks, after being saved, Jordan sees his plane crash, which he claims was sent to save them. The crash is portrayed with great dramatic effect, with it blowing up into a huge fireball, showing how lucky they were that the lifeguard managed to save them. But this doesn't add up. I mean, where was the plane supposed to land if it was coming to save them? In the middle of the ocean? To most viewers this did happen, and it's shocking to think about, but in reality, Belfort's plane crash occurred a week after the fact, and even then, only one person was on board, who also happened to be the sole survivor.
That plane was supposed to rescue you, as it was depicted in the movie. I don't know if it happened like that, but...
No. It happened a week later. So I was supposed to come pick me up and bring me home, so yeah, it was a week later.
The dramatisation of these two events happening together, as well as directly telling the audience
3 people killed,
is nothing but a lie made up for the effect of adding a sense of urgency and excitement to the scene. If this was any fictional film, then it wouldn't matter. Of course there needs to be drama and excitement. But the fact that this is supposed to be a memoir of Jordan Belfort's life usually leaves the audience to believe all of this happened, and without research, there's nothing that will tell them otherwise, leaving them with a false impression of the life that he had lived. The problem with films is that even when watching something based on a true story, it is indeed still a film, still dramatised and sometimes largely fictionalised. Adding elements or moving scenes to cause a bigger interest to the audience and add an extra layer of drama. This tends to blur the lines between truth and fact, and begs the question, how much of the truth remains true? This too leads us to debate, what is the difference between fact and truth? As Robert McKee said, what happens is fact, not truth. Truth is what we think about what happens. This idea becomes especially relevant when it comes to biopics. The facts are there, but filmmakers sometimes alter the truth in order for the narrative to be more entertaining or to enhance the emotional impact on the viewer. For example, in Bohemian Rhapsody, the biopic about the global phenomenon Queen, Freddie Mercury reveals his AIDS diagnosis to the band prior to performing at Live Aid. In reality, however, it's believed that Freddie wasn't diagnosed with AIDS until 2 years after Live Aid. This causes a heavy atmosphere over the scene, making the final performance come across as a heartfelt spectacle to see the film out. It adds an upsetting tone which wasn't there in real life, purely for the sense of drama. Biopics usually educate people of other people's lives, and with the fanbase Queen has, this can be quite damaging, leaving people with the wrong impression of a true event. So although the facts are right, the truth has been manipulated, and although not drastically, it's still misinforming the average viewer who might take the film at face value. Let's take a look at American Animals. This film tells the story of 4 university students who attempted to steal a priceless collection of books. It blends documentary-style interviews with the real people involved, with dramatised reenactments of their heist. The opening of American Animals begins like this. This presents the film as completely true, and seeing as we're hearing the story from the real individuals behind the heist, we can only accept that it is. Yet, their stories told conflict with each other's, which plays into the film with them breaking the fourth wall with the actors, to present how even the people there can't agree on the truth.
So this is how you remember it?
Not exactly. But if this is how Spencer remembers it,
then let's go with it.
Unlike The Wolf of Wall Street, Bohemian Rhapsody, or most other biopics or docudramas, American Animals plays into the thought that just because you've been told something is true, it doesn't necessarily explain what parts, if any, are true. There are multiple examples throughout that show the fragmented truth among the individuals involved, which ends with the audience being no clearer about what really is the truth.
I don't remember if the guy I saw in Central Park was someone that I saw or somebody that Warren told me I saw.
It's clear that American Animals is less about telling the facts of the story, but about exploring how subjective the truth can be.
All I remember from his Amsterdam trip was dropping him off at the airport and picking him up.
Films based on true stories challenge the audience's perception on truth. The facts at times may be altered for dramatic effect, but the way these changes affect our understanding of the truth is what makes cinema so powerful. As a viewer, we need to start questioning the difference between entertainment and reality, even if we're told to perceive something as reality. On the other hand, however, filmmakers must start understanding the power their films have, and need to realise that they carry the responsibility of where the line is drawn between the truth and reality when it comes to making their films.